All right. Hey, we got a bunch of people jumping in already. Did it go live on me on too early, unfortunately? Give me a second, guys. Let me get all situated here. Technical difficulties this evening. All right. I think we're getting there. Hopefully. All right. All right. Who all's there now? Hopefully I didn't lose everybody. I set this up ahead of time. Tried to get in here just on time. Came back in. The app had closed down. Opened it back up, and I guess it started. I don't know if it started on me earlier or not. Well, no, who knows? But hey, we're all here now. So good to see you guys. Let's see who's all here. Isabel, good to see you. Northeast Homestead. What else we got? DT Quail and Rabbitry. Nathan, Giant Angoras, Adams TV, Willy Wonka, Jasmine, hello, and Callie, I think it is. Callie Moreland, hey, how are you? And Connor O'Leary. So we got a handful of people joining in the chat already. Hopefully you guys are having a good week. It is almost Friday. Hello, Samuel and Scarlett. But man, it has been a hectic, crazy, busy week for me here. We've had clients in this week and had to work out of our other office. It's about an hour away, so I've been driving 2 hours a day. You know, an hour there, an hour back every day. Barely made it home in time to shoot this broadcast. I didn't think I was going to make it, but I did. So, and I'm glad you guys all made it to the broadcast with me. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. All right. I don't know. Rippleless, I don't know what that means. But hello, glad you made it. And Matthew, glad you made it too. All right, so what are we going to talk about tonight? Let's see. It is getting cold again here in southwest Missouri. It is, hey Sparky, it got back down to, I don't know, it's probably about 25 degrees out there right now. The wind's blowing a little bit. It's a little bit chilly. So I'm shooting inside instead of outside today. I know you guys don't care. You're probably okay with me shooting inside. Sharky Vasquez says you just got 37 subscribers. Well, congratulations. Keep with it, and you'll probably get more subscribers. Hang in there. All right. Oh, other exciting news. Isabel says you're getting another deep freeze tonight. You are, or are you asking me if I am? I don't know. It's not. I mean, it is February in Southwest Missouri, so it's not unlike unusual for it to get pretty chilly this time of year, down below freezing. It is going to be below freezing tonight, but I don't know how cold it's going to get. I don't think it's going to get below 20 degrees, so could be a lot worse. Jasmine says 35 degrees here, heading back to negative 40 for 4 days. It's nowhere near that cold here. It's just chilly here. All right, Connor O'Leary says, hey, since a couple of weeks ago, my quail started laying. Had one a day for about 10 days, then none for 4 days, and then started again since yesterday. Any ideas why they pause? Well, most of the time when they stop laying, it's due to a lack of light. So they need about 14 hours a day of light in order to lay on a consistent basis. And depending on how you're providing extra light to them, that could very well be the case. Or when they first start laying, or when they first start laying again, it tends to be a little bit sporadic. So you'll get eggs, and then you won't for a little bit, and then you'll get eggs, and then you won't for a little bit, usually for about 2 weeks, and then they kind of get on a steady cycle. That was kind of the exciting news I was going to talk about. My quail had stopped laying for about a month because, I've got the solar lights out there, but right now with the days as short as they are, it's just not enough to charge the lights up to keep it lit 14 hours a day. So they pretty much stopped laying. But this morning, I got an egg. So the days are starting to get a little bit longer. It's starting to keep the lights charged up a little bit longer. And that means the birds are going to start laying again. And I've already started to. So that's pretty good. Who's this? Northeast Homestead says, just going down to minus temps and wind chill here tomorrow night. That's very chilly. I don't envy you. DT Quail and Rabbitry says, just got in my first James Marie eggs in. They're bigger than my Jumbo Brown eggs. They're in the incubator, and hopefully I get a great hatch. Well, hey, good luck with that hatch rate. Hopefully it goes well. I'm sure you'll get great results from it. James Marie Farms are great eggs, and they do a good job. All right, Willy Wonka says, what do you do with your food and water for your quails when you go on vacation? you have an automatic feeder or waterer then? Well, I do have an automatic waterer. Usually they're I use the Glad family size containers with holes cut in the side of them for the feeders. Usually those will last about a week. Well, not a week, I'm sorry. They'll last a couple of days with food before they need to be refed again. My watering bucket, it's a 5-gallon bucket watering system. Usually that will last about a week. Now, of course, in the wintertime, I can't use that. I have to take water out every day. So if I'm gone for an extended period of time, I rely on my neighbor. That's why it's good to know your neighbors, have good relationships with your neighbors. She's got animals. I take care of them whenever she's out of town or whenever she's gone. She comes over and takes care of mine whenever I'm gone. So that's kind of how I work it out myself. Robert G says, hey, Chris, my 8-week-old hens lay very irregularly. Is that normal? Yeah, it's really normal. It's kind of, I think you probably asked this question about the time I was answering the last one about when they first start laying. It's very normal for them to be very sporadic when they first start laying, especially if you don't have the light, like I said, exactly right, 14 hours a day. If it's not consistently 14 hours a day, then that'll throw them off a little bit more too. So that, yeah, it's not unusual though for when they first start laying to take about 2 weeks or so to kind of get into that cycle where they're laying consistently every single day. So just be patient with them. They'll start laying and you'll have plenty of eggs in no time. Sharky says, where I am, it is 12 degrees. It's so cold. Well, be careful what you say. Somebody was talking about negative 40 just a minute ago. 12 is nothing near negative 40. Jasmine says, what type of light bulb do you use? You don't really need any kind of special light. Just I try to go with something that's white, like a daylight type color. Not a red, not a blue, not a green, not any of those weird colors. But it doesn't really matter. They're not too picky. You don't have to have any kind of special spectrum or anything like that. Just an LED light. It doesn't have to be super bright. Just needs light. So really, that's about it. I've used cheap grow lights, shop lights, like a $10 shop light. The fluorescent lighting you'd hang in your garage or whatever. Those work just fine. If you've got like stacking cages inside, you might want to have separate lights for each one. You can get the short, fluorescent lights are only about that long. Put one on each cage because if you just hang a light in the room, the bottom cages will be shaded and shadowed, and they may not get enough light that way. But other than that, again, it doesn't really matter what kind of light you use. And Walt coming in here with 78 degrees in California. I don't know that we want to hear that right now, Walt. Clutch says, how's your quail hatch? Love your channel, by the way. Well, excuse me. Well, actually, I'm not hatching any quail out right now because I'm not getting any eggs right now. They'll start picking back up, but I got my first egg in about the last month this morning, so they're going to start laying again. But the roosters aren't crowing, so they're not fertile yet. But it'll be probably about a month before I really start incubating and hatching anything. But my hatch rates have been pretty good with my previous hatches, so I'm looking forward to getting that going again. Samuel and Scarlett says I'm not sure what that means. I think hopefully you're trying to say awesome. I'm not really sure what that means, but hopefully that's a good, kind comment. Thank you very much. And the light suggestion's good. Well, you're welcome, Jasmine. Hopefully that helps. Matthew says, have you ever thought about a dovecot? I'm not sure what that is, Matthew. A dovecot? I don't know what that is. And Walt's laughing at us all because we're all in wintertime and he's at 78 degrees in California. Northeast Homesteads, about when will your does kindle? Okay, if you've been watching my channel, you know I've had a horrible time with breeding rabbits. So I did breed, well, I won't go through the whole story. You can go back and watch the videos. My first rabbit should be due week after next. I don't hold out high hopes because she was bred to my other buck before I got rid of him, which I think he was sterile. So maybe not have babies from her. My new buck was bred so she'll be 3 weeks out before she has any babies. So I have to go back in my mind and think about that. I can't remember. Okay, Clutch says, how did you learn all about what you teach on your channel? Trial and error. Well, Clutch is some trial and error. I grew up in a country family, so a lot of this stuff kind of, I guess, comes naturally to me. I don't remember exactly where I learned it, but a lot of it's trial and error, a lot of it's experience, reading books, watching other people's stuff, talking to people that are experienced with it. and then trying out what they're telling me. I always make sure I test things out before I share them with my audience. I never just learn something and then, oh, well, that sounds like a great idea, and then share it with you guys. I always try to test it out. Sometimes I'll do experiments, and I'll share those with you guys. Right now, it's cold here right now. We're getting up in the 40s and 50s during the day, so I've got some low tunnels out there, and I went ahead and put some seeds in the ground. So kind of like winter sowing, if you've ever heard of that, except for instead of doing it in like milk jugs, I'm going to do it under low tunnels, and we're going to see if that stuff sprouts up. It's all cold season crops like lettuce and spinach and broccoli and Brussels sprouts and garlic and those kinds of things. I shot some video on that, but I haven't had time to get it all edited, get it posted for you guys, so hopefully I'll get that done here pretty quick. All right, Toasted Rabbit, good evening to you. All right, again, if I miss your comments, sorry guys. It goes by pretty quick whenever I'm looking at the screen talking sometimes. Giant Angora says, you do a great job at raising rabbits. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad you like it. Walt says, what are James Marie, James Marie, a breed of Coturnix? Well, James Marie is a breeder, and he's a very well-known specialized breeder. He's the one, if you've ever heard of meat makers, he's kind of the one that came up with that breed, I guess you would say, of quail. Selective breeding over time. Came up with the jumbo meat makers, which are just the standard brown colors, but they're a jumbo bird. He's also come up with the jumbo pharaohs, a few other kinds of birds, but he's very well known. Probably, I would venture to say, probably the best, most respected quail breeder out there. I don't think he even sells to the general public anymore. I think he just sells to other breeders, other commercial breeders, who then in turn sell to the general public. Allie Mae, hey, how are you? And wants to know, are you hatching your quail in the winter right now? No, I'm not, because I don't have any eggs coming in right now. I was just talking a few minutes ago. I got my first egg today, the first one in about a month almost, because the days are just so short. I can't keep my solar lights charged enough to light the quail hutches up to 14 hours a day. But they're starting to get longer. Like I said, got the first egg today, so it'll probably be a little while before the roosters start crowing and start getting active and the eggs become fertile. Probably be about a month or so before I start hatching any more out. We'll see. Sparky says, I've used simple nightlight bulb, great results. Well, good point. Again, you don't need a whole lot of light, just need light. So that's a good suggestion. Callie Moreland says, favorite animal? Oh my goodness. People always ask me some of these questions. They're strange. My favorite animal. What's my favorite animal? It depends on what, like my favorite animal to eat or my favorite animal as far as what I enjoy. I think frogs are probably one of my favorite animals. I'm a big reptile amphibian enthusiast. I find them fascinating. At one time, I was actually planned on becoming a herpetologist, a professional herpetologist, and run like a reptile house at a zoo or something like that. I had about 40 snakes and lizards and frogs and all that kind of stuff. And if you ever come to my house, not that you would, but you're going to see I got little frogs everywhere. This is one that just sits on the edge of my desk right there. And that's probably my favorite. All right, Crystal Dickey says, hey Chris, in advance, any advice on how to treat an abscess on my rabbits? I've been using penicillin and I've tried lancing it, but nothing's coming out. Are you sure it's an abscess and not a tumor? That would be one thing. An abscess, you should see drainage or something coming out of it. I would say, make sure it's not a bot fly, but with wintertime, it's probably unlikely that that's the case. Blue coat is something you should be able to pick up from any kind of local farm supply stores. That's a good topical for, abscesses and all those kinds of things. But if nothing's coming out of it, it makes me wonder if it's not like a fatty tumor or something like that. So I'm not sure I can really diagnose that over chat in a YouTube channel. If it's, you might check, might even take it to a local feed store or something, see if somebody is a little bit more experienced with it. Looking at it and seeing it in person is a little bit easier to tell what it is than trying to just describe it and all. But that's one suggestion. Blue coat's a good something to use for that. I love games. Hey, how are you? Samuel and Scarlett says, you are awesome. Okay, you are awesome. That's what you were saying earlier. I was hoping that was what it was and not what it kind of looked like it might have been saying. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, Matthew Tompkins is describing to me. Let's see. Dovecot is like great big pigeon house where you don't actually have to them much. You let them forage for most of their food. Oh, so you're talking about building like a big aviary for the quail and just kind of letting them roam in that aviary type thing. No, I haven't thought about doing that for a couple of reasons. One is, I mean, that's a pretty expensive, build to build something that large, because you have to have it enclosed on the top and the sides, predator proof, all that kind of stuff. It gets pretty pricey. Another reason is it'd have to be pretty good size to keep the waste from building up too much, or you're going to be cleaning it out on a regular basis unless you build like a tractor, you move it around. And the other reason is trying to hunt for eggs in the grass. And then one more reason is, on the ground, there's a little bit higher chance of disease and parasites and some of those kinds of things. Now, again, that's relative. It depends on where you live, how high of a risk there is in that area, but still it is a little bit higher of a risk. So I know I haven't really considered doing that myself. I may experiment with it a little bit, or maybe some tractor type stuff where I can kind of move them and just see how they do. Who knows? Maddox and Peyton, hey, how are you? Oh, excuse me, guys. Got to get a drink. I'm getting dried out. Oh, much better. All right. Jasmine says, probably a silly question, but if quail get out of their shelter, can you get them back? No, that's not a silly question. That's a good question. Coturnix quail, they're not like homing pigeons or anything. They're not going to just necessarily come back on their own, but they are fairly easy to catch in most cases. They don't fly very well. What I find is when mine get out, and actually my dog catches them for me now, and he's good. He catches them, he doesn't kill them, so that's nice. But what I find is if they do get out, you approach them, they tend to jump 6, 8 feet in the air, something like that, and kind of flutter to the ground, and they may go 15, 20 feet away, but if you just stay on them and keep kind of following them and try to maybe, like if they're going towards the neighbor's yard, walk around them so you spook them back this way again. And then the next jump, it won't be 5 or 6 feet, it'll be 4 feet in the air, and then flutter, and they'll only go 10 feet. And then the next jump, it'll be 3 feet in the air, and they'll only go 3 or 4 feet. And then after about 3 or 4 jumps, they're pretty much tuckered out, and they're pretty easy to catch at that point. So yeah, they're pretty easy to catch. It also might help to have like a net, like a butterfly type net on a longer pole, so you can just kind of catch them as they go. Might be able to make it a little bit easier for them. But yeah, you can get them back and you can put them back in their pens. All right, Benjamin says, did you give your rabbit update with your new buck? Hoping for a kit for you. I only got one video out this week. It wasn't a rabbit video. It was a composting video on how to make compost for your garden. I did shoot some other video, but didn't get time to edit it. Just busy, life got in the way. So, no, I haven't done another rabbit update for 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago was the last rabbit update, is when I bred. I did get my new buck. I got a new doe as well because my silver fox doe died right after breeding him to her. So who knows why. But I got a new doe. They're all doing fine. She's been bred. Hopefully I'm going to have some kits here in about 2-3 weeks. Allison, hey, how are you? Samuel and Scarlett, hello. Rogolf, Texas. Is it okay to have 6 hens and 2 roosters in the same pen? I'm new at this. 6 hens, 2 roosters, yes, that's okay. You're probably going to be better off if you could go with like 8 hens and 2 roosters, but 6 hens and 2 roosters isn't a bad ratio. The only thing you're going to worry about, don't go any lower than that, because the males are going to overbreed your females. So you really 1 to 3, 1 rooster for every 3 hens is about the lowest I want to go on my ratios. I really like going 1 rooster to every 4 hens or 1 rooster to every 5 hens. But 6 roosters or 6 hens, 2 roosters, that's going to be fine. It should work out okay for you, no problem. If you notice that your females are getting the back of their heads just scalped, where they just don't have any feathers on the back of their heads, that means they're getting overbred just a little bit. You might take the roosters out and give them a break a little while, and then put the roosters back in. Hens will stay fertile for up to 10 days after they've been bred. So you don't need to keep your roosters in there necessarily all the time if they're really, overworking your hens. You can put them in there for a couple of days, maybe a week, and then take them out for a week. And then put them back in for a week, and then take them out for a week. You might run into a few problems if you do that with aggression when you put the roosters back in. The hens kind of attacking them because they're kind of new. So I wouldn't go much more than keeping them out for a week. And if you do, keep them pretty close so they see each other and they don't get completely unfamiliar with each other. Hopefully that kind of helps. All right, Sharky Vasquez says, you should watch a chick called Albert. He saves chickens and ducks and even quails and makes them hatch with an incubator. A couple of people have mentioned it. Maybe it was you, Sharky, that mentioned it last time, too. I'll have to look that up and check it out. And Matthew, you're more than welcome. Let's see. Jonathan Roy says, "Hey, bought a 4 mix rabbit today to breed. I was wondering how long should a nest box be, and where can I get what I need?" Okay, if you check back, if you've got a cage and you've got cage material, you can build your own nest box pretty easily. I build mine out of cage material. They are, what is it, 10 inches long, 5 inches wide, 10 inches high, and then a 5 inch high. Maybe it's 10 inches long. I'm trying to remember my math on this. 10 inches, 5 inches. Yeah, I think that's right. 10 inches long, 5 inches wide, 10 inches tall, 5 inches on the front, so the doe can get in and out pretty easily. I just build it out of cage wire, just make a box out of it basically, and J-clip it together. And then I line it with cardboard whenever I get ready to have a litter, stuff it with straw, not hay, but straw, and then put that in there, and that works great for me. You can buy rabbit nest boxes. If you do, I would go with one that has an open top, not one that has a lid over the top of it, because you really don't want it. You don't want a lot of moisture in there, and you need an open top for it to be able to dry out and to ventilate and to air out. So hopefully that helps. All right, where are we at here? Jack Leo says, "Is chicken feed good for Coturnix quail?" Excuse me. Yes, chicken feed's fine to feed to your Coturnix quail. You probably want a little bit higher protein levels, though, than most chicken feed's going to provide. I really like to do something over 25% if you can get it at least over 20%. Most chicken feeds usually like 16, 18%, somewhere right around in there. So I always try to go with a game bird starter or a turkey starter. Try to get unmedicated in both of those. And those are what I usually feed my birds. But yeah, if all you got is chicken feed's okay to feed to your quail. But I do think that they would do better with a higher protein level. So see what you can find. Check for a local feed store. If they don't have it, ask them if they can order it in. They might be able to order it for you. All right, what kind of dog will catch a live bird? This comes from Rippolis. Well, my dog will. My dog will catch a bird alive. I mean, I guess if I gave him enough time, he might kill it and eat it. But no, for the most part, he'll catch him alive. Doesn't really damage him. Doesn't hurt him too much. He's a part pointer, part pit bull. So he's a mix. And it's just the kind of dog. I mean, I'm just lucky to have that kind of dog, I think. I don't know. Yep, Walt's giving some good advice. He says a long-handled fish landing net is your best friend for jailbreaks. That does work pretty well because you can kind of get up to them. What I try to do is don't try to pin them to the ground with it, but when they jump, try to catch them with it because they'll come right back down. Just put the net underneath them, they'll land right in the net. Half the time when they jump up in the air, I can just put my hand out and catch them with like that. But if they're a little bit further away from you, it's nice to have that long-handled net to kind of catch them with. All right, what do we got here? David says, do you change your feed to something with higher calcium when the quail start laying eggs? No, they don't really need that high of calcium levels. If your feed has anywhere from like 1.5 to 2% calcium, that's as much as they need, really. 1.5 would be about the minimum calcium level I'd go with. But in most game bird starters and turkey starters, it's at least 1.5%, maybe 2%. That's really all the calcium that they need. In fact, there's some evidence that says if you add extra calcium and they go much over that, that it can actually affect your hatch rates because it makes the eggshells so thick. It makes it hard for the chicks to pip and to get out of the eggshell. So usually, in fact, it's almost never necessary to add extra calcium for your quail. Samuel and Scarlett says, you are cool. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, I love games. Do rabbit bucks fight? I have 2 bucks and 3 does in the same cage, and one of the buck almost killed the other, separated him, and now he's recovering. Well, I think you kind of answered your question there. Yeah, rabbit bucks will fight sometimes. So will does. And I wouldn't keep my does and my bucks together unless they're young and they're grow-outs. But once they reach sexual maturity, you need to separate them out because you're going to end up with unwanted pregnancies or unexpected pregnancies. You are going to see sometimes the bucks will fight with each other. Sometimes the does will get very territorial. They'll fight the bucks. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that could go. All right, Walt says, the downside of 2 roosters, 6-hen ratios, if you lose 1 rooster, remaining is overworked. Yeah, that's a good point, Walt, is if you do lose one rooster might be able to service 6 hens. I've had good luck with 1 to 5 ratios before in the past. But yeah, that is the downside. If you lose one, then yeah, you're out of roosters. So, but with only 6 hens, you don't really want to add more roosters either because that's really kind of too many. So you're kind of between a rock and a hard place there. Hopefully quail aren't too hard to come by. You got some fertile eggs coming. You can start hatching out and you can get another run going and replace them if you do lose any. All right, Craig Clark says, hey, real quick, just got 50 eggs sent to me, and at least 19 plus were cracked. Can I fix cracked with wax or something around that matter? Oh, so 19 out of 50 eggs were cracked. That's unfortunate. That might be something, leave some feedback for that seller. Let them know. I mean, a couple of eggs, but 19 out of 50 sounds pretty high. Maybe the seller might do something and like send you more eggs. Of course, wait till this one's done incubating and then send you more eggs, hopefully. But anyway, to answer your question, I have not personally tried fixing that, but yes, I've heard of people having good success fixing cracks in eggs with some wax, just like some candle wax. You just spread it over the crack, as long as it's not like crushed in. But if it's just a crack, yeah, you can spread it over the crack, and I've heard people do it. I would try it, see if it works. Who knows? Worst that's going to happen is they don't hatch. All right. Jasmine says, so you can keep them on turkey starter indefinitely. Well, I use a game bird starter, but turkey starter is pretty much the same thing. The only thing is you may have a hard time finding a turkey starter that's not medicated. But if you can, then yes, you can keep them on turkey starter indefinitely. I feed all of my birds game bird starter, and it's actually a 30% protein game bird starter. I get it from one of the local feed stores here, and they mill it themselves. So I get a pretty good deal on that. That's what all my birds eat, all the way from the moment they come out of the incubator until they go on the dinner plate. That's what they eat. All right, what do we got going here? Olivia, hello. Thank you so much for the kind comments. Oh, he said your sister wants to say hi. You mean my sister? Okay, I thought you were saying my sister wants to say hi. And I'm running through my head thinking, okay, who do I know that is named Olivia that would know my sister? But tell her I said hello. Hello to both of you. Okay, Jonathan Roy says, KK, I made a 2 nest box out of wood, 10-inch with 12-inch long. Would that work? Yeah, wood's not a good choice, though, really. I hate to, I don't want to say you made a mistake, but you at least, if nothing else, need to replace the bottom with hardware cloth or, cage wire or something like that, small, like 1/2 inch or smaller cage wire. Because wood just absorbs all the urine, everything. It's incredibly hard to keep clean. The rabbits are going to chew on it. It's probably not your best choice. And again, I would at least replace the bottom with wire so liquid and stuff can kind of can fall through. But hey, if that's what you got, that's what you got. 10-inch wide, 12-inch long. Yeah, that's plenty big enough, bigger than you need actually. So that would work for that. Check out on my channel, if you go to the homepage, let's see, you can look through my rabbit videos, scroll down. It'll be one of the older videos that I've, a couple of years ago. It's one of the older videos I shot. And I did a video on how to make a nest box out of cage wire. See if that'll help. All right. Northeast Homestead says, are you in a semi-urban area? Well, no, I'm in an urban area. I mean, I live in town. I live kind of at the edge of town. If you look at my backyard, I don't really have any neighbors right behind me. There was an old train track that ran through there that's no longer used, and there's there's a factory back off that direction. So I don't have any neighbors right behind me, and I've got a tree line right along there that's wooded, but it's only 20 feet across. I mean, it's not woods. It's 20 feet of woods. That's it. But no, I live in town. I mean, there's a grocery store right, half a block away. There's a gas station, about 6 blocks the other way. I got a whole neighborhood full of people on the other side of me. It is in town, urban area completely. All right, what else we got here? I love games. I like your compost video. Well, thank you so much. Glad you liked that. DT Quail and Rabbitry says, what is your favorite way to cook quail? I processed 24 the other day and have some cooking to do. Well, there's a couple of ways you can do that. What I find is quail do best hot and fast, so I really like to do them under the broiler in the oven, so that's like at 400 degrees, with the top heat coming down. Put them on a rack or something, season them with whatever you like. I like Cavender's Creek seasoning. You can just do seasoned salt or whatever. You can marinate them first if you wanted to, like some olive oil and maybe some lemon juice for the acid, fresh herbs, salt and pepper, that kind of thing. And then throw them under that broiler, about 4 minutes on each side. 4 minutes, flip them over, 4 minutes, and they're done. And what I usually do is I take them, kind of hard to explain, but they're they kind of sit round, like this is the way this would be the breast of the bird with the legs sticking up, and I flatten them out a little bit. So I just kind of break that breastbone, the ribs right there at the breastbone to flatten them out a little bit so they lay flat on the pan and they cook a little bit more evenly. You really don't want to overcook them. They tend to get a little bit chewy, kind of tough if you overcook them. But about 4 minutes under that broiler, 4 minutes on each side works really well. I've done them in like stovetop stuffing that works really well. Like, fill a casserole dish with some stuffing, put the quail on top of it, bake them in the oven. That'd be about 350 for about 15, maybe 20 minutes, and they should be done at that point. You don't have to worry about undercooking them as far as a health concern goes. They don't really carry salmonella or any of those kinds of things. Don't want to eat it raw, but if it's a little bit on the pink side, a little bit undercooked, it's okay. You don't have to worry about that too much. Just, you don't want to overcook them too much. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Rogolf says, can I use the quail poop for lawn fertilizer? You can. If you throw it straight on your lawn, it's probably going to be okay if you spread it out fairly thin, but if you just put like a bunch of it in a pot, it's going to kill your grass. It's pretty high nitrogen. Really needs to be, it's considered a hot manure. It really needs to be composted before you use it for a fertilizer. But if you want to sprinkle it out a little bit, it's probably not going to kill your grass. If it starts looking like yellow burned, then it's because it's too hot. It's too much nitrogen. But again, composting it down is going to fix that issue for you. All right, where are we going here? Do baby rabbits have waste? I haven't seen anything other than super tiny balls of poop the size of a ball of the ball of a pin. Yes, they do have waste. And it's going to be very minimal while they're nursing. Once they get out, about 10 days old, when they move out of the nest box, they're going to start eating pretty quick, and then it'll start, building up a lot quicker. But yeah, it's pretty minimal while they're nursing. Sharky Vasquez says, how do you stop baby birds from dying? One of mine died when I took good care of it. If it's happening on a regular basis, there's a lot of things that could be happening there. I'd need to know before I could answer that question. Usually the biggest reason why birds die in the brooder box is heat. Either too much heat or not enough heat. So, position your light to where it's about 100 degrees in the brooder box. Watch your birds. If they're all crowded underneath the heat lamp, that means it's too cold. Move it a little bit closer. If they're all crowded as far away from the heat lamp as they can get, then move it a little bit further away. It's a little bit too warm. So that's usually the main issue with that. Hopefully that helps. Brian Roderick says, do you have a recipe for pickled quail eggs? I don't, because I tried to make pickled quail eggs once and did not like them. And I don't know if it was a bad recipe or if I just don't like pickled eggs. That's the first time I'd ever tried them, and really not my thing. I will tell you, though, if you do plan to make a pickled quail eggs, there is no way to safely can them at home and make them shelf-stable. You need to put them in your fridge, eat them within 30 days. There's a risk of botulism with quail or with eggs of any kind, pickled eggs of any kind. And it's not worth taking that risk. Even I know people are going to say, I've done it for years, never had a problem. But, you can, it's playing Russian roulette. Botulism is serious, bad news. They are fine to pickle up, put them in your fridge, eat them within 30 days, but don't do anything past that. Don't try to make them, can them up and then put them on a shelf and store them for any length of time. It's not a good idea. All right, Alan Ocampo says, hello, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Shady XV. Shady is at room numbers. Well, hey, I think you've been here before. Welcome to the channel. Glad to see you. Isabel says, I pickle my quail eggs the same as chicken or duck eggs. I like mine with red beets. I've heard of that. What they call a purple nurple. Taking like you get a jar of beets, pickled beets. You eat all the beets, and then you just throw your eggs in the beet juice and let them just kind of pickle in there, just like refrigerator pickles. And I've heard that's pretty good. I haven't tried that, so I may do that someday. Like the quail egg pickling idea. Isabel, they make a nice little bite-sized... I love the hard-boiled quail eggs. They're just nice little hard-boiled quail eggs, bite-sized eggs. They make great deviled eggs. Little bite-sized deviled eggs are just fantastic. But I just wasn't a fan of them pickled. I'll have to try them in the beet juice sometime and see. Okay, Craig Clark says, I did contact the seller, and he made me pay for more eggs, and I'm going to try to incubate those wax eggs. And man, do I love your channel. Me and my wife in Arizona wanted to start up because of you. Well, thank you so much for the kind comments. Sorry you ended up having to pay for the extra quail eggs. That's unfortunate for sure. I don't know who you ordered from, but I can't recommend Kansas City Quail Farms enough. They've been great. Package their eggs fantastically. Great bloodlines to choose from. They're all James Marie bloodlines. I'm not sure if they've got any fertile eggs right now. It'll probably be spring before they do. And I don't know, about shipping to Arizona. I'm sure they'll do that. I don't think there'd be any problems with that. But if you have problems, then check them out and see. And tell them I sent you. Let them know that you heard about them on this channel. All right, Isabel says they are a pain to peel. The quail eggs, yeah, they can be a little bit difficult to peel. You kind of get the knack for it after a while. And what I do is I kind of smash them on the counter a little bit, kind of crumble up that shell, start at the fat end, and when you kind of break that shell, there's a little air sac right there, so it makes it a little bit easier to get to. Break that, and then you can kind of, if you work it just right, you can kind of make it come off almost in one piece, and then just kind of push the egg out of it. It's kind of hard to explain, but you can do it. But yeah, they're definitely harder to peel than regular chicken eggs. Jonathan Roy says, "Hey, my buck, I got mine be mix, but he's some breed as your buck, but I got to say your old buck looked pretty nice, and had to get one California white." Okay, I think what you're saying is your buck is a mixed breed, but he is a California mixed breed, so he looks like my rabbit. All Californias pretty much look the same: white, black ears, black nose, and that they pretty much all look the same. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that for sure. Hopefully he's a good breeder for you and does a good job. All right, Barrett says, "Hey, I just wanted to say good day from Australia. Awesome channel, and your advice has helped me with a lot of my rabbit breeding. Cheers." Well, thank you so much, all the way from Australia. I appreciate you joining the live broadcast and coming in here and chatting with us. I'm glad that you're finding my videos helpful. Sharky says, "You think it was too much heat while your baby bird died? You think it was too hot?" It very well could be. That can happen pretty easily. All right, Jasmine says, "I would be the person who would get sick if anyone would get sick." I kind of feel the same way about myself. Yeah, if anything was bad was going to happen, it would happen to me probably. Mark Khalil, I think I'm saying that right, hopefully. "Hey, wondering what is the best breed of quails that are most fertile, that are also fairly big?" Jumbo Coturnics. Coturnics are all Coturnics. There's jumbos and then there's standards. The standards are smaller than the jumbos, of course. The jumbos get probably about 12 ounces. I think anything over 11 ounces is considered a jumbo. I personally, they're all going to lay about the same. They're all going to grow out about the same rates. There's not a huge difference between that, their fertility, any of that kind of stuff. It's all going to be about the same. But the jumbo meat makers or the jumbo pharaohs are my favorites because they are a standard brown bird, which means you can visually sex them. You can look at them and tell which one's a rooster, which one's a hen, and it's real easy to do. Plus, I find that their aggression levels are a little bit lower than like the all-white, what people call A&Ms. They're not always A&Ms, but the all-white birds seem to be a little bit more aggressive, and I think the standard browns work out better for that reason. I Love Games says, "Have you ever had skin mite problems?" No, I've never had skin mite problems in my rabbits. Ear mites I have, but that's easy to deal with. But no, I've never dealt with skin mite problems. Michelle, hey, how are you? Glad you could make it from way down there in the Caribbean, right? Somewhere down in there. I can't remember exactly where, but in the Caribbean, I think. Jonathan Roy says, "Yes." I can't remember what you were saying yes to. I'm sorry. All right, what do we got here? Is that Chalmer Davidson? I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm sorry if I'm not. How did you come up with the name Slightly Rednecked? Oh, how did I come up with the name Slightly Rednecked? Good question. I was sitting around thinking about what it just kind of describes me. I grew up, in the city, but a fairly small town. But I grew up in a poor family that was kind of a country family. So we did a lot of hunting. We grew a lot of our own food. I'm from Southwest Missouri, which is kind of almost southern, not quite southern, but almost southern. We have a lot of southern traditions, southern kind of ways of living, but we're not really southern, not exactly. So I always thought about, and I work in a corporate environment. I'm decently educated, not that rednecks aren't educated, I don't mean it that way. I've had a couple of years of college under my belt. I work in a corporate environment in an office building, so often I'm wearing a suit or something like that to work. And then I come home and change into my, dirty clothes, go out and play in the garden, work with the animals, go hunting, go fishing, all those kinds of things. So it just kind of stuck with me, slightly redneck. Just I'm kind of a redneck, but maybe not completely a redneck. So that's how I came up with that name. Allie Mae says, thanks for doing the live chats and for all your videos. I love keeping up to date with you this way. Well, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it too. G Shiz, I've got to say that name slowly or it might be a mistake. How many remaining quail can you put with a male? How many remaining quail can you put with a male? I think you're asking me just how many hens can you put with a quail or with a male. You can put as many as you want to with them, but if you want fertile eggs, probably not more than about 5. I wouldn't go more than 5 hens to 1 rooster. Probably 4 is a good bet too. So those are hopefully that answers the question. I Love Games says, are you a football fan? If you are, what team do you want to win the Super Bowl? I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, but I'm having a hard time remembering exactly who's playing in the Super Bowl. It's the Patriots and is it the Patriots and I can't remember the other team. So it kind of tells you, no, I'm not a huge sports fan. Being from Missouri, you have to be a Chiefs fan. I think it's a law. You have to be a Chiefs fan if you're from Missouri. So I do watch some football from time to time. If I do, it's usually a Chiefs game. Sometimes I'll get into the Super Bowl just for the camaraderie. The Eagles, that's the other one. Okay, I knew somebody would tell me. Yeah, I know. You guys want to take away my man card now because I don't know who's playing in the Super Bowl. But I'm just not a huge sports fan. I will probably watch the game. It's a good time to get together with some friends. I don't know if anybody's coming over, if we've got a party to go to. And it's fun. I get into a football game, but I don't really follow it that closely. And really, I definitely am not a huge sports fan. All right. Michelle says, tomorrow is day 8 for me, Chris, with my quails incubating. Hope at least 5 hatch. Well, good luck with that. I hope they do too. I hope you have more than 5. If I remember right, you had to travel to go get those eggs and bring them back with you. So hopefully that works out well. Good luck with that, and hopefully you don't get like all roosters or something. That would be a bummer. But hang in there. Hopefully it works. David says, make sure everyone hits the thumbs up button. Well, yeah, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button if you guys would like to. DT Quail and Rabbitry says, so Chris, I have a rabbit that is not one of mine, trying to make a home in my backyard around my rabbits. Do you have any suggestions on how to catch it? It's ripping up my yard and getting in my hay. Okay. A wild rabbit is becoming a nuisance for you, and you want to know how to catch it. Honestly, what I would do is, do you have a pellet gun? I know that sounds horrible, but rabbits are no shortage. There's no short supply of rabbits, and it's probably living there because it's getting crowded out anyway. You could get a live trap and try to trap it. Here the conservation department will loan you live traps and then go release it, but it's probably just going to become somebody else's problem if you do that. So, and it's wintertime right now, and I'm not sure if it's rabbits. I don't think it's rabbit season right now, though. I think that runs through, well, it might run through February. It's still squirrel season. I don't remember. Anyway, you could eat it if you wanted to. So have a wild rabbit for dinner. That's my best suggestion on how to deal with that. All right, how big should a rabbit be before breeding? They usually need to be about 6 months old. That's pretty typically about whenever they are ready to breed. At that, I usually go 6 to 7 months old, and that's about it. I don't worry about size so much. Just 6 to 7 months old. Michelle, St. Kitts in the Caribbean. Is it Caribbean or Caribbean? You guys probably can't tell me because how do you say that in chat, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting it wrong, but I knew you were down there somewhere. All right, Allison Tribley. I got 2 mini lops this week, and my baby rabbits are all weaned and thriving. I gave up on the English spots, got another, and died within 3 days. Oh, that's unfortunate. I hate to hear that. But hey, 2 mini lops this week, so all weaned and thriving. Good, good. Glad to hear that. I've never really raised the pet breeds too much, but if I was going to, mini lops might be one of those that I would do. They're pretty cute rabbits and fun to have around. I Love Games as a Philadelphia boy, huh? You're trying to get an argument started in here, aren't you? I'm not sure who I'm going to root for yet. I'll pick a team at the beginning and I'll root for them. I really don't care about either one of them, but hey, who knows? Maybe I'll pick one and we'll see if that's the one that wins. Walt, your popular guy tonight. That's the second time you've been pulled off for a phone call. So, Jasmine says, are quail eggs like chicken eggs, where you can save them up to 10 days, or is it shorter window because of the eggs are smaller? You know, it's a good question, Jasmine. No, you should be able to save them. 10 days is pushing it. I usually don't want to go, I mean, it is, yes, you can go 10 days, just like chicken eggs. But even in chicken eggs, 10 days is pushing it. It's on the verge of, I mean, the fertility really drops off at day 10 and after. So I usually try to go no more than about 7 days. That's how long I like to store. Walt has a good suggestion. Tractor Supply has 2 live catch traps for $27, a rat size and a possum models. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. You could buy a trap, but if you're only going to use it once, like I said, you might check with the conservation department. Here, they will loan you a trap for free. You catch it and then you can just re-release it wherever. All right, Rogolf says, quail eggs incubating Friday, 11:59 p.m. When do I start lockdown? Okay, you started your quail eggs last Friday at 11 p.m. You want to start lockdown on day 14 or day 15. Day 15 is usually a pretty good suggestion for that. So if you started at 11:59 on Friday, then you're going to go with, let's see, Friday, 2 weeks out. You would go like the 2 weeks out, the next Saturday. And you can do it early in the day Saturday or late in the day Saturday. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes you might want to go with like 14 days just because if your incubator is incubating just a little hot, they may start hatching out on day 15. So day 14 may be a good one. You could do it Friday night and you'd be fine. All right, what else do we got here? Where am I? I lost some track here. Oh, DT Quail and Robbery says, it's not wild, definitely is a pet that someone left out or got out. I also thought to take it out and eat it for eating my stuff. Well, you know, if it's a pet rabbit that somebody caught, then yeah, trapping it might be fairly easy. You could probably just put some whatever it's eating, hay or something like that. You know, if you've got a hay, you know, bale that it's going to and eating, if you dig a kind of a burrow in there, put the trap inside there, and stuff some hay and some pellets maybe inside that, he's probably going to go right inside there and get trapped pretty easily. And then, heck, who knows, you might want to keep the rabbit. If you do trap it and you want to keep it, quarantine it from the rest of your rabbits for at least 30 days. If it's been running wild, there's a good chance that it may have picked up some parasites or something like that, and you don't want to spread that to the rest of your rabbits. All right, where are we at here? Michelle says, I was saying tomorrow is day 8 of incubation, starting with 25. Oh, started on the 25th of January. You do that, it's not weird to you, don't take offense at this, but you do that weird date thing. It's weird for me because being an American, we do everything backwards. But you put the day first, and then the month, and then the year, whereas we put the month, and then the day, then the year. So that threw me off for a second. But and I guess it's not a European thing. It's the rest of the world thing. We're the weird ones. But anyway. So lockdown is on the 8th of February, 2018. I hope I'm going to get a few of them to hatch out, the 32 eggs that I have. I'm betting you do. Good luck with that. And the 8th of February, great day for you to go into lockdown. Anybody know what the 8th of February is, why it's important? It's probably not important to you guys. But anybody know just by chance? We'll see. All right, here in QC. QC, what is QC? Is that Canada? I'm not sure. We can rent cages from SPCA with a deposit, of course. Yeah, I think the Conservation Department requires a deposit to be put down here, but they give it right back to you, and it doesn't cost you anything in the long run. Somebody picked it out. Michelle got it. Yep, February 8th is my birthday. So, DT Relic Quail and Rabbit says it runs like heck if you get close. Well, yeah, that's probably why it's running around your yard. Nobody was able to catch it. Walt says if you feed, you will have varmints, rat, squirrels, possum, mice sooner or later. Yeah, you're right about that. You're going to have something if you have feed, for sure. Mice are usually the first to come in. Squirrels and possum are not far behind. Quebec. I was going to guess that, Isabel, but I wasn't sure if that was right. Looks like, a couple people got that right. Northeast Homestead guessed it was my birthday. Isabel guessed it was my birthday. All right, Jonathan Roy says, how many female can a started buck can breed in a week? A started buck. How many females can a started buck breed in a week? And if I put a metal bottom of the nest box, wouldn't the babies freeze? Or should I add cardboard? Okay. How many female can I start? Okay, in a week, yeah, you could breed a buck, a doe a day, probably actually two does a day to a buck and be just fine. You're not going to have any problems with that. As far as the bottom, I wouldn't put a solid metal, put a wire mesh metal, and yeah, put a piece of cardboard or something down there, something that you can just peel out and throw away when you're done with it, because you're never going to get wood clean. That's how I would do it. Melody says February 19th is your birthday. Well, happy birthday to you early, because I'm probably going to forget that. No offense. All right. Houdini Two Wheel says, do you do these live videos every Thursday at 8? Well, for the most part, every Thursday at 8. Sometimes, things get in the way and I can't make it. I almost didn't make it tonight. But generally every Thursday at 7 Central, 8 Eastern, I come on and do a live broadcast. We hang out for about an hour. And what I pretty much do is just let the chat kind of dictate the way that the broadcast is going to go. Just respond to the comments in the chat, let you guys kind of tell me what you want to talk about, and that's where we go. All right, Robert G says, I just installed a DIY automated feeder that holds about 5 pounds of feed. So interesting, 5 pounds of feed is it in a raised cage? I thought about doing much bigger feeders than what I'm using. I've got some ideas on how to do it. Had somebody, and I don't remember who it is now, I'll have to look, because they did some videos on some different feeders they made, had some great ideas. So I wanted to make sure if I stole one of those ideas, I gave them credit for it, but I don't remember who it was now. I'll go back and find them anyway. But my concern is putting that in a raised cage, 5 pounds of weight on that wire is going to cause it to sag quite a bit and maybe start pulling the staples out. So I may have to look at reinforcing that a little bit. I don't know. Or I guess I could hang it from the rafters above, just hang it at the right level. A couple of thoughts on that. Getting choked up here. Hang on. The air's so dry in the wintertime here. My hands dry out, the skin. I mean, it's just so incredibly dry. Chokes me up all the time, too. All right. Where are we at here? Awesome comments. Missed them. M&K Meadow Homestead says, we use the small cookie sheets that are old for the bottom, cleanable, and not chewable. Hey, that's not a bad idea. Never thought about that. Yeah, you could try that out for sure. Melody has the same birthday as Allison's mom. It's a small world, isn't it? Sparky says the 22nd of February, you'll be 64. Well, happy birthday to you, Sparky. I know I'm going to forget that too, so I'm just going to tell you happy birthday now. Andy the Owl says, I switched over from having my rabbit from colony settings to cages. A big mistake. I have no clue who is pregnant, and I have nesting boxes in each cage, taking up the cage. Any suggestions? Well, it's a short-term problem. That's what I would say. I wouldn't worry about that too much. Yeah, I think colonies are, I wouldn't say they're a big mistake. It really depends on how you want to do things. I don't like, colonies not my ideal setting because, again, you don't know who's pregnant. You don't know when they're going to have babies. There is a higher chance of, pests, parasites, disease, those kinds of things. And it just doesn't seem natural to me. I know people think it's more natural, but rabbits are not colony animals. They don't live in colonies in the wild. They live individual sole lives. So I don't know. I don't know. Colonies are not a great idea for me. It's a lot of mess, a lot of cleanup, they're going to dig holes everywhere. It's just more work. But as far as your problem right now, yeah, throw nest boxes in there, wait 30 days, and the ones that don't have babies, you can take the nest boxes out. Well, actually, give it a little bit more than 30 days. Give it about a week after 30 days, just to be sure. But it's a temporary mistake, or a temporary problem. It's going to go away. It's just short term. Robert G says, my cage is a little lower than you would like, so I supported it from the bottom. My cage is a little lower than you would like, so you supported it. All right, I think you're talking about the feeder. You supported the feeder from the bottom because your cage is low. Well, hey, if it works, great. Northeast Homestead says, wire bottom on the nest box is best. We have wood, and it got real nasty. 4 of our 6 kits ended up with the nest box eye. Yeah, nest box eye is a problem, especially with, that's why one of the reasons I say don't get a covered box, leave it open on the top so it can air out. If you do get nest box eye, and you'll know, it'll be like their eyes will be all kind of gummed up and matted shut. Chamomile tea and honey work really well. Just brew some chamomile tea, pretty strong. Some water in a cup with a little bit of honey in there, some chamomile tea, stir that around in there, and then you can kind of dab that on the eye, and that will help clear that up. Jasmine, you had to. Well, hey, it's no problem. I'm going to have to get this thing wrapped up here pretty soon. I haven't had dinner yet. My wife just got home from work. I just barely got home from work because, like I said, I was working an hour away. So I barely got home from work to get this video up and going tonight. So I'm going to have to be closing out pretty quick. And let me see if I can get a couple more things. Isabel has a good suggestion. Says you can try palpating to see if they're pregnant. Talking to who was that had the Andy the owl. Yeah, if you want to, you could try palpating them. I wouldn't trust that 100% unless you're really experienced with that. Palpating's incredibly difficult. It's a very hard skill to learn, and even if you know how to do it, you can miss. So if you think the rabbit's not pregnant, it may be. But it's something you can try. It's a good time to test it out and practice, see if you're right. So you might try. Michelle says, please answer the question about can you have too much humidity while incubating? When I add hot water, humidity goes way up. Would really be happy to know before too late, and I kill them all. Thanks. Okay, Michelle, you can have too much humidity. I don't know what percentage you're dealing with, but anything over about 90%, I would say is too much. It can drown the chicks. It's usually not much of an issue until lockdown time. And I find that I don't need, you may not need to add any water. I mean, if your air humidity, if you're, you're in the Caribbean, however you say it, your humidity is probably up towards 80% in the air anyway. And if it's staying at 80%, you may not have to add any water at all. So it is possible to have too much. I wouldn't stress about it too much though. It's not likely. All right, what we got here? Isabel says, yeah, the too much humidity can steam boil the eggs. It can. It's usually not an issue unless you're spraying the eggs directly with water. But still, it is a little bit of a concern. You're usually not going to get too much steam out of 100-degree water, but it's a possibility. Jonathan says, when can we see new videos of your show? Once a week or every now and again? Because your videos are very helpful. Well, Jonathan, I usually do 2 videos a week, Mondays and Tuesdays. In the past, it's always been a quail video and a rabbit video. But I am starting to branch out a little bit. I'm getting some more gardening videos in there. I'm getting a few other things. I try to work quail videos and rabbits videos in there pretty regularly. And I pretty much had, I covered pretty much every topic on rabbits and quail. But I'm still going to keep doing those videos for you guys. Working out a schedule on that, but you should see a quail or a rabbit video pretty much every week from me. Monday and Tuesday nights are the nights I usually post videos, and then Thursday nights I go live. So, hopefully I do a pretty good job of sticking to that schedule usually. This week I didn't get a Tuesday night video out. I only got a Monday night video, but most of the time I'm pretty good at sticking to that. All right, just another question or two, and then I got to get off here. Jasmine says, do you have a blueprint plan for building a quail coop? I don't have a blueprint drawn out, but I did do some videos on how to build the quail, how I built my quail hutches. You can go back and check for, check through my quail videos, and you should be able to find it pretty easily. Remind me again about that later, or come back and leave a comment on this video after it publishes, after it stops going live, because the comment section here doesn't stay. And remind me about that. I'll see what I can do to get a blueprint drawn up for you guys. Hey Chris, how far are you away from Kansas City Quail Farm? I don't know exactly where they're located, except for they're located in Kansas City. I'm about 3 hours south of Kansas City, about a 3-hour drive. All right. All right, guys, I got to wrap this up. I got to get off here. I got to quit looking at the chats, because if I look at the chat, I won't shut up. I'll keep talking. So I got to block it out so I don't see it. I got to wrap this up, go have dinner with my wife, spend some time with the family. I've been busy, getting home late every night this week, so it's time to go have some family time. Thank you guys all for joining this video. I appreciate it so much. If there's some specific things that I failed to get answered for you, or if there's some things that you'd like to see in future videos, like I said, come back to this after the video publishes, leave me a comment, and I'll do my best to get that stuff addressed. Thank you so much. As always, God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you again right back here next week. Take care.